What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Last Principles. I am your host, M.A., former member of the ICOC, the International Churches of Christ, joined in October of 2000, escaped in November of 2013. Let's talk about one of the most annoying, polarizing, triggering words in the ICOC lexicon. I say lexicon because we had no shortage of kingdom lingo that we use. I'm using my air quotes as if y'all can see me. But anyway, that word is sharp. What is sharp? What the heck does sharp mean? All right, well, let me share a story with y'all to kind of illustrate what sharp is. So this is my second year at Florida A&M University and my first semester. If I haven't already turned one as a disciple, I was about to turn one as a disciple. At the time, my discipler was also my Bible talk leader, and I was unofficially his right-hand man, so to speak, I guess. So I used to attend leaders meetings with him after church every Sunday. This particular leaders meeting, during the good news sharing portion of it, this one sister got up and shared that she met a sharp brother on campus this week. Now, I'd heard the word sharp quite a few times, and I kind of thought I knew what it meant just based off of the context in which I heard it. But I was like, okay, I keep hearing this word and nobody's ever explained it to me. So let me ask. So I asked my disciple, I lean over and I'm like, hey, Carl, what does sharp actually mean? He leans back over to me and says, what she really meant to say was she met a fine brother on campus this week. And we had a little chuckle about that, but you know, a lot of truth is said in jest, right? So that leads to one reason that you could be called sharp. If you're considered sharp, it's for one or maybe a combination of a few reasons. One being, if you're sharp, you're probably considered to be conventionally attractive. You are what current society deems beautiful, handsome, cute, hot, whatever. So that's one way you could be considered sharp. Hence that sister meeting a sharp, aka fine brother on campus that week. Another way you could be considered sharp is if you have some kind of status, clout, power, or whatever in whatever your realm is. So let's, for example, let's put this in college life terms. If you were a sharp person on campus, you may have been part of the student body. You might be part of a sorority or fraternity. You might be an athlete, a model, a cheerleader, or you just might be just plain popular for whatever reason. Another way you could be considered sharp is if you had a lot of charm or charisma about you. Like if you're the kind of person to light up a room as soon as they walk in and you kind of take command of a room, or everybody stops and pays attention to you. If you kind of command attention and respect, if you kind of have the gift of gab and are good at talking people up and convincing them to do things, that kind of thing. You could also be considered sharp if you make a lot of money. If you have a job that makes you, six figures, things like that. You might be a doctor, a lawyer, things like that. So any one or combination of those things could make you quote unquote sharp. Now, the problem in my opinion was not the sharp people in and of themselves, like, because a lot of the reasons why you could be sharp may even be out of your control. So if you were ever considered sharp, if you were a sharp person in the ICOC, I am not coming for you right now. Like that, you are not the target of this video. You're good. What I am throwing shade at, what I am criticizing, is the fact that the ICOC put too much value on sharpness. There was way too much favoritism, more often than not, put on sharp people. Let me give you a few examples. If you were sharp, you most likely were, or at least the leadership wanted to, groom you and fast track you, so to speak, into leadership, whether you aspired that for yourself or not. So like let's just say you just got baptized. By the time you get baptized, like even during your studies, the leaders are probably like licking their chops and plotting and planning and scheming to eventually get you into some kind of leadership position, whether it's just a Bible talk leader or ministry leader on staff somehow, whatever. They already have their eyes set on you for having a particular position, much to the chagrin of anybody who had already been there for any amount of time longer than you. and someone who might have actually wanted to be a leader and may have been putting in the work, paying their dues, and just waiting for their turn. Then all of a sudden, somebody fresh out the baptistry, still ain't even dried off yet, gets catapulted ahead of you. That I can imagine that probably leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Not to say that longevity or tenure equals leadership ability, but at the same time, sharpness doesn't either. And I say this a little bit from experience because if you guys listen to one of my past videos, one of my earlier videos, I was only 3 months old, and all of a sudden I found out I'm a Bible talk leader. Nobody asked me, nobody told me ahead of time, nobody called me to try to tell me what was up. All of a sudden I come back from winter break and I'm a Bible talk leader. What in the world? And I'm the youngest spiritually and physically in my Bible talk. And I'm like, surely somebody else in this Bible talk is more equipped and experienced to do this. Like I took no pleasure at all in being this leader, in leading people who were both spiritually and physically older than me. I'm glad nobody in my Bible talk ever gave me a hard time as far as, being the youngest. Like if anybody had any ill feelings towards me for being a Bible talk leader so early, they did a really good job of hiding it, and I appreciate it if that was the case. Anyway, so yeah, if you were sharp, a lot of times, people already had their eyes on you as for to be a leader. You also probably got sharp people also got received favoritism when it came to like encouragement dating and steady dating. Another story I'll tell you guys. This is also in my first semester of my second year at FAMU. Now, a few months before, I had spent the summer back home in Atlanta, so I made quite a few friendships in the Atlanta church while I was home for the summer. So there was two brothers who were coming from Atlanta to Tallahassee to visit, and as is our custom, if you go out of town somewhere, a lot of times you try to get set up on a date with someone who was in the church you're visiting. So the brothers asked me, "Hey, can you hook us up with some dates?" And I'm like, "Cool, I'll be glad to." So I do what I consider to be the noble thing to do, which was I set them up with some sisters who had not been out on dates in a while. Because you don't have to be a brother in the church for too long before you start hearing, "Oh, sisters ain't being encouraged. Sisters ain't being encouraged." Y'all know how I feel about the word encouraged being misused. If not, see a previous video. Yeah, sisters ain't being encouraged. This sister hasn't been encouraged in weeks. This sister hasn't been encouraged in months or years. So, I wasn't quite jaded about that back then. So I'm like, okay, let me hook them up with some sisters who haven't been out on dates in a while. So, you know what? This is funny. The sister who I'm about to mention, this is the same sister who met a sharp brother on campus this week. This same sister more or less rebukes me. I don't know. Rebuke might be a sharp word. Rebuke might be a strong word because it wasn't harsh. It was pretty gentle. But I more or less got rebuked for not setting these brothers up with the more sharp sisters in the campus ministry. I got reprimanded for not asking advice about who to set them up with. Got discipled for not setting them up with the sharp sisters because our ministry needed to be represented well. That's what happened. That's why I kind of sort of got in trouble for setting these brothers up with sisters who hadn't been out on dates in a while. Now, I forget what sisters I set them up with, but I don't recall these sisters being unattractive, right? They weren't ugly, they weren't unattractive. I feel even bad even saying that, but yeah, they were not unattractive sisters, but compared to the sisters who replaced them, those sisters who replaced them, they were they very eye-catching. They were quote unquote sharp. Now that I think of it, I'm like, I would love to have been a fly on the wall in the room when that conversation was had, like to be told that you're getting replaced, that you're getting Destiny's Childed on a double date. Like, yeah, you two sisters are out, these two sisters are in. Like, I just can't even imagine how that conversation went down. Like, I basically got vetoed. So two completely different sisters got chosen to go out with these brothers in Atlanta. Another place that sharp people got favoritism with was when it came to doing anything on stage. I specifically remember when during that one summer I was at home, I went back home to Atlanta, and also Once I moved back home to Atlanta, what I noticed is it was always like the same 5 or 6 people on stage singing every single Sunday. And it was always people that had a particular look. They had a sharp look to them, and half of them, or if not all of them, were leaders as well. So, do what you will with that. So yeah, sharp people were the ones who got to sing. Vocal ability be damned, because I've said in the video before, I know one brother who worked the sound crew both before and after the letter, and he's told me stories about how he's had to turn some people's mics down, maybe even off altogether, because the people who were chosen to sing couldn't actually sing. Like, let's just say the noise they were making unto the Lord was not joyful. So yeah, and that I know that really did put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. I know some people who really did want to sing, but they never got a chance because they weren't sharp enough, because they did not fit a particular look. Now, I know that at least in my neck of the woods, when I was in Atlanta, maybe like a year and a half or so after the letter, we pretty much banned the word sharp. Like, nobody uttered that word ever again. And finally, some people who never got a chance to sing on stage got a chance to, and man, did the quality of worship go up. People who actually had some singing talent got a chance to get on stage. So yeah, I don't know how well that went on with other ministries. I just know that's what happened in mine. So, but based off of some testimonies that I've heard, sharp might have been banned in my ministry where I'm at, but I think it probably still, I don't know if people might not have actually said the word, but some of those practices still continued. I've heard stories of people being reprimanded for not reaching out to more sharp people. It's almost as if you were just reaching out to and baptizing regular Joes and Janes, it's almost like your baptisms didn't count. It's almost like it didn't count as you being fruitful because you weren't pulling in sharp people. If you guys go and check out Double H, Helen, over at Losing My Religion / ICOC Shenanigans, she has a video about sharp people as well. And if you go watch that, she talked about how I think either she said it in this video or it was a conversation that she and I had. I forget which one, but she mentioned about how somebody said to her, "One thing about you, Helen, you'll bring anybody to church." And the person meant it as a compliment. I'm pretty sure they did. But it was like, wait, so we're not supposed to just bring anybody to church? Like, isn't that the point? Isn't the point to save all people, right? But I think that what that person meant as a compliment was more of an indictment to the whole church that, oh, they're actually focusing on sharp people. They only really care about sharp people, which is really discouraging at the end of the day. Looking at the fact that, oh, we need more sharp people. We need more sharp people. I remember in the last season of Aldo's The Reclamation podcast, he mentioned how he got his dad out to church one day, and he introduced his dad to whoever was the leader at the time, and nothing happened. He just kind of, just didn't really interact with him, didn't give him any kind of attention at all, and his dad didn't get studied with. Now, just imagine hearing that. And if you're in the ICOC, most likely, if you're in the ICOC, you've been convinced that your only shot at heaven is being in this church. So imagine being fully convinced of that, and then finally getting your parents out to church. Because, if your parents aren't with the church, then at that point you're thinking, oh, they're going to hell. So imagine thinking your parents are going to hell and thinking that getting them into this church is their only shot at heaven, and then nobody reaches out to them when they get there. Nobody stops to spend any time with them. Nobody spends any time with them. Nobody studies the Bible with them. They ain't even got a shot. So imagine how discouraging that's got to be. I know I'm getting a little off subject here, but yeah, that just shows why it was such a bad thing that sharpness was what was overemphasized in the ICOC. Oh, another way that sharp people got favoritism was if you were sharp, you probably got away with a lot more than you would if you were not sharp. So and part of this goes into the whole money thing, because if you're definitely considered sharp if you make a lot of money, if you're making 6-7 figures or whatever. So the fact that you got money, you're bringing in more money, which means you're paying more on your contribution, which means that is lining the church's pockets and lining the pockets of everybody up at the top, right? Now, yes, I do know that that's how church works. When you give your tithes and offerings, that's what helps keep the church running. I get that. but it's not, but not, it shouldn't be to the point where, the people up top are just living lavish, just living like balling out of control lives, right? Not that they shouldn't be able to live comfortably, but it shouldn't be like a big night and day, huge gap difference between them and everybody else, right? So sharp people, because some of them were bringing in money, because you don't want to lose that contribution. You're probably going to let these people get away with a little bit more than you would. Some people might get a longer leash when it came to missing certain meetings of the body. Certain people might get a longer leash when it comes to, dressing a certain way. When it comes to attendance, I can think of, let me just look up the guy. So yeah, Max Strong. Max Strong was I believe he was a fullback for the Seattle Seahawks. And I don't know if he still is, but I heard that he was a disciple during my early days there. Now, again, because this is not aimed at sharp people. This is aimed at the overemphasis on sharpness. This is aimed at the favoritism shown towards sharp people. So I am not coming for Max Strong. He should be able to do what he's doing or do what he did. But yeah, Max Strong played fullback for the Seattle Seahawks. And if you know anything about football, professional football is usually played on Sundays. Guess when church is? Sundays. And even if, the time zones don't match up or whatever, if you're playing on Sunday, you ain't going to church because you're, whether your game happens during church or not, even if it's a later game, like a 4:00 game, 8:00 game, whatever, you still with the team doing pregame, whatever you do for pregame, whether it's warm-ups, pregame meal with the rest of the team, all that kind of stuff. You're doing that stuff at the time where you probably might have been at church. So regardless, playing football, that's several months out of the season where you are missing church on Sunday. But I'm pretty sure they didn't disciple him over that. I mean, I don't know for sure. I'm just speculating. I'm speculating with this, but I'm probably not wrong in saying that he didn't get discipled for missing church on Sundays. Your average Joe and Jane can't do that. Your average Joe and Jane aren't going to be given that long of a leash for missing church on Sundays. Most people are going to get told, hey, you need to find a job that's going to let you come to church on Sundays, or else you're in sin, or else you're struggling. But yeah, like I said, Max Strong should not get discipled for missing church on Sundays because he plays professional football. Nobody else should either. And that, again, that's the whole problem with sharpness. People who were sharp got shown so much favoritism. Got shown favoritism when it came to actually, like I said, reaching out to people. Sharp people were targeted. Those are the two big main groups of people who were targeted. Campus ministry, like people, campus students, because we're still finding ourselves. We just got from under our parents' roof. We're still learning about who we are. We want to change the world. We're naive and influenceable. So we were targeted, and then also sharp people were targeted because they want to bring money into the church, and also because there was always this talk of making the gospel attractive. I don't know if that's actually in the Bible or not. I've read the Bible all the way through twice, I think, at least twice. I don't recall any scripture that said anything close to make the gospel attractive. Now, if you want to, there may be some more noble reasons for that. You don't want to make the gospel unattractive, because you can definitely make the gospel unattractive by being a hypocrite. And that's one of the big reasons why a lot of people don't like Christianity and don't like religion in general, because of hypocrisy. So you can definitely make the gospel unattractive by being a hypocrite. So I can vibe with that. But some people are like, I've heard this said a few times, well, nobody's going to want to come to church with you if you invite them out to church and they look at your life and your life is uninspiring. Nobody on campus is going to want to come to church with you and be a Christian if you're, failing all your classes or you're struggling in all your classes. Nobody's going to want to come to church with you if you don't look like you care about your appearance and your hair is not done, your clothes are always wrinkled. Nobody's going to want to come to church with you if the way you lived your life isn't inspiring. And I can't completely knock that mentality. Like, yeah, I'm like, if thinking about football, unless I'm just in it for the money, I'm not going to go join a team that sucks, because we ain't going to win a championship. Like, I get that, I'm not going to want to join an organization that doesn't look like it has anything going for it. Like, I get that to a certain degree. I get it. But when that is the whole emphasis on everything, when there's so much emphasis on, oh, we got to make it attractive, and it's really I'm speculating here, but I'm really just like, they're going after sharp people in order to attract more people, because they're like, oh, well, we got all these beautiful, fun-loving people here, that's and using that to try to attract more people. But I'm like, why do we need to make the gospel attractive? Seriously, should not the gospel be attractive enough on its own? Do we need to defend the gospel? Do we need to make it look better? If it's really the gospel, if it's really the good news, it should be enough. We don't need to make it attractive. We don't need to make it look sharp to get more people in, One last thing about sharpness, right? Looking at the fact that sharp people were targeted, right? I feel like this should put to rest the idea that only gullible people, only dumb people, only weak people, only sheeple get involved in cults. Because I know that's a lot of us who have gotten involved in the ICOC or any other high control group / cult. A lot of times we're in denial about the fact that we were in one, because, if we admit that looks bad on us. That's a incrimination on us, right? It's like, dang, how dumb are you? How stupid are you to get caught up in something like that? And again, I've gotten past that. That's not the case. Just because you got caught up in a cult does not make you dumb, does not make you gullible, does not make you naive, does not make you weak. None of that. A lot of strong people get involved in cults because, certain things appeal to it. And, you want to change the world. You're idealistic. You want to do good things for God. And of course, it doesn't look like a cult from the outside, right? So one thing that helped me get over that is realizing that sharp people get targeted, and they want sharp people. They want people who aren't sheeple. They want people who aren't weak, who aren't gullible. They want people who actually have, I hate to say sharp minds. They want people who are intelligent. They want people who are go-getters. They want people who are powerful. They want these people. So let that put some ease to you. The fact that everybody, whether you're weak or not, whether you're strong or not, whether you're sharp or not, whether you're just regular or not, can get caught up in something like this. Going after the sharp people reminds me of, I'm actually just rereading. I'm going to geek out here. I'm going to geek out here a little bit with y'all. So bear with me. I've been rereading my favorite comic book, X-Men. I've been rereading from the start of Chris Claremont's run from back in the mid 70s up until the point where I came in on it. I became a fan in the early 90s. So I've been going back and rereading all of that. And one of the X-Men's biggest enemies were this alien race called the Brood. The Brood, if you look at them, they were obviously patterned off of the Xenomorphs from the Alien franchise. The only difference, there's a difference in look, but it's a similar look to where you're like, yep, that's an Alien ripoff. Anyway, the one big difference between the Brood and the Xenomorphs is that, they both reproduce by impregnating other living beings and then using them as host bodies. But the Xenomorphs would put an embryo in you, and it would grow and it would burst out of you, killing you, and then a new baby Xenomorph comes out. The Brood, what they would do is they would plant an embryo inside of you, and it would slowly transform you into one of them. Now, when they, and similar to the Xenomorphs, the newborn alien would take on the characteristics of the host. So same thing with the Brood. They would, once it transforms you, it retains a lot of the characteristics of the host body. And in the X-Men's case, or in any superhero's case, the new Brood that got born out of a superhero, whether it's the X-Men or not, they took on the powers of the person that was the host. So they were purposely seeking out the X-Men, not just because of the powers. They wanted revenge for the X-Men kicking their butt at one point. But anyway, the part that applies to what we're talking about today is the fact that they would go after the X-Men and other super beings because they wanted more powerful Brood. They wanted more powerful members of their race. So they would go after the superpower beings so they could add that to their army. So just like the Brood, the ICOC was going after sharp people in order to, to make themselves look better, to bring more money into the fold, and to make it more attractive to everybody else. Yeah, I know I went off on a long tangent there, but that was stuck in my head. Like that realization dawned on me as I was rereading those comics. Anyway, so yeah, sharp people, sharpness. Again, this isn't about the sharp people in and of themselves. This is more about the ICOC overvaluing sharpness, putting too much emphasis on being sharp, showing favoritism towards sharp people and sharpness. That's it, y'all. Hit me up. Let me know if y'all have any other ways that someone could be considered sharp. If y'all feel like I left anything out, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear y'all's perspective on sharpness. I would love to hear, if you ever feel like people were mistreated because they weren't sharp, if people were shown too much favoritism because they were sharp, if you were a sharp person, your experience as a sharp person, all that kind of stuff. Hit me up in the comments and let me know. Again, I'm behind on interviews. I'm probably going to be saying that for a long time. But yeah, I will get caught up. Y'all let me know if y'all got any topics y'all want me to hit. If it's a topic that I'm well versed in enough, I will cover it. That's it. Y'all have a good night, and I will see y'all at the next video. Peace.